This is Part 2 Episode 99. A faint scream came from behind Wang Lin, and then a happy laugh followed it. Although there was no speech, Wang Lin could clearly hear one line within the laughter. "There is someone to play with me." Wang Lin's expression was gloomy. He tried to scan the grain of dirt in his hand with his divine sense, but he found that there was a force stopping him. Wang Lin frowned, then he activated some celestial spiritual energy, and infused it into his divine sense. His divine sense spread out again, and this time it broke through the force and entered the grain. The moment his divine sense entered the grain, he heard the sound of a mirror cracking. Then the grain cracked open, and a blue flame appeared in his hand. When he saw this flame, Wang Lin's body trembled. Soul piece. This was the soul piece of a mortal, and it contained a hint of fire element. The owner of this soul piece never cultivated, and was only a mortal. That scorched earth is made up of these grains of dirt, and every grain is a soul piece. All of them should be mortal souls that couldn't cultivate, and that child is some kind of spirit body formed by all of these soul pieces combined. No wonder the celestial sword couldn't destroy it. Wang Lin's expression was even more gloomy. He looked at the flame one more time, before putting it back inside the grain. The moment the blue flame went back inside, the crack on the grain sealed itself. He waved his right hand, and without him stopping it, the grain flew back toward the scorched earth. Sichunan said that the soul pieces are inside the cultivation planet crystal, so why did I find soul pieces right at the entrance? Could my soul piece also be inside this kind of life form? Wang Lin frowned and flew forward. The Suzaku tomb was too big. After leaving behind the scorched earth, Wang Lin picked a direction and quickly flew that way. The landscape of the Suzaku tomb was no different from outside. There were mountains and rivers, and the spiritual energy here was very dense. The spiritual energy here was several times more dense than outside. Even most sects' spiritual energy gathering formations couldn't produce this kind of effect. 3 days later, Wang Lin was moving like a meteor, at low altitude toward the inner part of the tomb. However, after 3 days, Wang Lin still hadn't found the border. Right now he was flying over a plain. The green grass of the plain seemed to go on forever. In the past 3 days, he hadn't seen one cultivator. While he was flying, his expression changed and he turned around. He saw 2 cultivators flying across the sky like lightning in the distance. One was male and the other one was a female. When the 2 of them saw Wang Lin, they were startled. Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he hit his cultivation level. He now looked like someone who had just reached the soul formation stage. 2 divine senses swept past him as if scouting him out. Afterward, the 2 of them seemed to have relaxed a bit and slowly flew towards him. The 2 of them stopped several hundred feet away from Wang Lin. Neither of them looked very old. The male was a young man wearing a green robe. This robe was messy. It had holes and even some blood marks that had already gone black. On his sleeve was a mysterious symbol. It was clearly the symbol of a certain sect. As for the woman, she was a bit ugly. There were countless pockmarks on her face. If a mortal saw her in the middle of the night, they would mistake her for a monster. Although her face wasn't pretty, her body had a womanly charm. If you ignored her face, she definitely had a certain charm to her. The 2 of them were several hundred feet away from Wang Lin when the male shouted, "I'm Murong Yun. I wonder what your name is." Wang Lin remained calm and let out a smile. "I'm Qingmu." Qingmu was the name Wang Lin used when he entered the soul refining sect. Wang Lin was able to see through their cultivation levels at a glance. The young man was at the mid-stage of soul formation, while the woman was at the early stage. Outside the Suzaku tomb, they could be considered strong, but inside the Suzaku tomb, where so many have died, they seemed a bit weak. They were only able to come inside, because they were already in the country of Suzaku, when the Suzaku tomb opened up. If they had arrived a few days later, then there was no way they would have had a turn to enter. Murong Yun carefully examined Wang Lin and said, "Has fellow cultivator just reached the soul formation stage?" The woman looked at Wang Lin with a hint of coldness. Wang Lin faintly smiled. "That is correct." I have just reached the soul formation stage. Murong Yun carefully examined Wang Lin. After confirming that he really was at the early stage of soul formation, he relaxed a bit and said, "Fellow cultivator, this place is simply too dangerous. How about we team up? The more people we have, the safer it will be, and we will have a higher chance of getting our soul pieces back." Wang Lin pondered a bit and said, "After hearing fellow cultivator speak, you seem confident in getting your soul piece back." As Wang Lin spoke, his eyes lit up without anyone noticing. Murong Yun laughed and said, "Fellow Qing, you don't know, but I was among the first wave that entered the Suzaku tomb. I personally saw how Qian Feng and the 8-leaf shamans of the Forsaken Immortal clan entered the inner section. If it wasn't for the fact that my cultivation level isn't high enough, I would have already gone inside the inner section." "Oh?" Wang Lin faintly smiled. "How did Qian Feng and them enter?" Murong Yun let out a mysterious smile and said, "I can only tell Brother Qing that the entrance is an altar. They searched for a very long time, and finally went into the altar. However, the location of the altar is remote and very dangerous. We need to wait for more people before we go, then we will have a better chance." Wang Lin's eyes were calm. He looked at this person, faintly smiled, and nodded. As the two were talking, the woman next to Murong Yun said, "No need to speak any more nonsense." With that, she flew away. Looking at the woman's back, Murong Yun let out a sigh and said, "She looks like a great beauty from the back. What a pity." With that, he clasped his hands at Wang Lin and followed behind her. Wang Lin rubbed his chin and slowly followed behind the two of them. He would occasionally place his gaze on Murong Yun. The mark on his sleeve and the black blood marks on his clothes made him ponder. As they flew, Wang Lin calmly asked, "Fellow cultivator Murong, what kind of danger is there at the altar?" A hint of fear appeared in Murong Yun's eyes as he took a deep breath and said, "I only saw it from a distance. 3 of the 8-leaf shamans and 2 soul transformation old monsters died. Even after they all died, I never spotted the enemy." Wang Lin revealed a smile that was not a smile and said, with a hint of mockery, "Fellow cultivation Murong's luck was pretty good." Murong Yun was startled when he heard this. Then he let out a wary smile and said, "I was really far away and escaped right away, so I wasn't caught in the fight. However, one thing I'm sure about is that there is a powerful existence there that is very dangerous. We need more people to have a chance at entering." Wang Lin looked at Murong Yun with a strange smile on his face and no longer spoke. Murong Yun's heart sank. He took another good look at Wang Lin before turning around and carrying on. The 3 of them flew very quickly across the plain with the ugly woman in the front. In the afternoon of the second day, the woman stopped. She looked into the distance and coldly said, "There is someone up ahead." Just as she spoke, a sword pierced through the air and swept toward them. As the fierce sword energy closed in, a cold aura surrounded the area. A white flying sword quickly closed in. The person on the sword was an old man with grey hair wearing a grey robe, but with eyes were like lightning. His expression was very gloomy and kept on looking behind him. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He was able to tell at a glance what was wrong. A bolt of twisting lightning was chasing the old man. The bolt of lightning seemed to be alive, and was closely chasing after him. As he was escaping, the old man's divine sense swept past the 3 of them, and he exclaimed when his gaze landed on Wang Lin. Wang Lin had seen this old man before. He was one of the 16 soul transformation cultivators outside the Suzaku tomb. His cultivation level was at the early stage of soul transformation. He didn't stop and quickly said, "Fellow cultivators, retreat quickly. That thing is very strange." Just at this moment, Murong Yun casually looked at the thing that was chasing the old man. His gaze was very ordinary, but the bolt of lightning immediately stopped and let out a roar of discontent before running around and leaving. Everything happened very quickly. If it wasn't for the fact that Wang Lin had been paying special attention to Murong Yun, he wouldn't have seen what just happened. The lightning quickly disappeared. Even the old man on the flying sword was startled. He stopped, looked behind him, and his eyebrows knit tightly together. Murong Yun moved up a few feet. He clasped his hands and said, Junior Murong Yun greets Senior. The old man coldly looked at Murong Yun and ignored him. His gaze landed on Wang Lin as he clasped his hands and said, "Many thanks, fellow cultivator Seng." After thinking for a while, he couldn't figure out why that thing had stopped chasing him. In the end, he thought that it had something to do with this Seng Nyo. After all, Seng Nyo was very famous, so he had to have some powerful spells. The moment he said, "Fellow cultivator Seng," the ugly-looking woman suddenly turned around and carefully looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin faintly smiled and shook his head. "That is not me." The old man's eyes faintly narrowed and he smiled. "Let's not talk about this. I'm Mu Yunhai. Does fellow cultivator Seng have any clues about entering the inner section of the tomb?" Wang Lin stayed quiet and looked at Murong Yun. Mu Yunhai's heart skipped a beat. Murong Yun faintly smiled as he clasped his hands and said, "Junior Murong Yun greets Senior." Mu Yunhai nodded and asked, "Do you know how to enter the inner section?" Murong Yun nodded and replied, "Senior Mu, Junior does know the method of going in, but Senior has to promise that you will take us in as well. If Senior agrees, then I promise to tell Senior everything I know." Mu Yunhai's eyes lit up and he said, "Speak, this old man agrees." Murong Hai's eyes revealed joy. "Junior will lead the way. Our destination is an altar, it's the only passage into the inner section." Mu Yunhai asked, in a serious tone, "Are there dangers there?" Murong Yu quickly replied, "There are." Junior saw several 8-leaf Forsaken Immortal clan members die. There was a total of 8 of them, but the first person to enter didn't encounter any danger. Mu Yunhai frowned, then he looked toward Wang Lin and asked, "Fellow cultivator Seng, what do you think?" Wang Lin looked at Murong Yun with a smile that was not a smile and said to Mu Yunhai, "With the two of us working together, even if we can't get past it, our lives shouldn't be in danger." Mu Yunhai laughed, then he nodded and said to Murong Yun, "Little brat, lead the way." Murong Yun quickly nodded, then he looked at Wang Lin and warily smiled. Senior is definitely not a soul formation cultivator. Junior didn't know before. I hope Senior won't blame me. With that, he flew in front. Mu Yunhai signaled Wang Lin and the two of them followed behind. As for the ugly woman, she hesitated for a bit before following them. Although Murong Yun's speed was very fast, it was still too slow in Mu Yunhai's eyes. Half an hour later, Mu Yunhai let out a snort and moved up, grabbed Murong Yun, turned toward Wang Lin, and said, "Fellow cultivator Seng, you and I will each take one of them and get to the altar at full speed. If we are slow and the cultivation planet crystal breaks, then all of us will die here." With that, he held Murong Yun and suddenly sped up before disappearing into the distance. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He waved his right hand and the ugly woman was immediately surrounded by a mysterious power. Wang Lin flew off into the distance while taking her along. "Is Senior Seng Nyo?" The woman was behind Wang Lin and a hint of her fragrance entered Wang Lin's nose. Wang Lin calmly answered, "I am." The woman wondered a bit and then suddenly said, "Senior, beware of Murong Yun." After that, she remained silent. Wang Lin and Mu Yunhai were very fast. With Murong Yun guiding them, they quickly crossed the plain. 3 days later, an endless mountain range appeared below them. Above the mountain range was a massive black cloud. This black cloud was constantly churning and it gave off a creepy aura. On the western side of the mountain range was an extremely tall mountain peak. Most of the peak was hidden within the black cloud, so only half of it could be seen from outside the black cloud. Under Murong Yun's guidance, Mu Yunhai charged into the black cloud. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and followed closely behind. Inside the black cloud, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a black light. The black light quickly disappeared within the black cloud. Then he slapped his bag of holding and took something out. With one shake, it also disappeared within the black cloud. He did all of this very inconspicuously with the cover of the black cloud, so no one detected anything. Even the woman who was next to him didn't notice, because the difference in their cultivation levels was too great. The mountain in the black cloud was a bit blurry. It was as if there was something wrapped around the mountain peak, giving it an ethereal feeling. On the top of the mountain was a large platform, and at the center of the platform was a black altar. This altar was a tower with steps leading up to the top. There was a concave at the very top of the tower with black fog going inside. Mu Yunhai held Murong Yun and landed on the altar. Wang Lin landed after them. They saw dried blood marks on the altar, and the smell of blood was still lingering. They sometimes heard wails coming from the black cloud as if there were ghosts crying. After Wang Lin landed, he let go of the woman and his eyes lit up. After looking around, he saw that this place was very different from how Sichu Nan described it. The altar that Sichu Nan told him about was in a valley surrounded by mountains, and not a mountain peak. His eyes quickly became cold. Mu Yunhai spread out his divine sense and looked around. Then he said, "Junior Murong, is this the altar you were talking about?" Murong Yun quickly nodded and said with confidence, "Senior, this is the place. However, Senior should be careful. Aside from the first 8-leaf shaman, the ones that followed him all died mysterious deaths." Mu Yunhai looked at Murong Yun before quickly grabbing Murong Yun and pressing his hand on Murong Yun's forehead. Mu Yunhai's eyes lit up and he whispered, "Soul search." Murong Yun let out a miserable groan and his body began to tremble. Mu Yunhai's eyes lit up even more, and then he let go of Murong Yun after a while. Murong Yun fell down like a pile of mud. His body gave off a deathly aura and remained motionless. "Fellow cultivator Seng, this person isn't lying." With that, he jumped up the altar. "Fellow cultivator Seng, I'm going to scout. Please guard me." "Okay." A hint of mockery appeared in Wang Lin's eyes. Mu Yunhai arrived at the top of the altar in almost the blink of an eye. After standing there for a bit, his expression suddenly became strange. His eyes revealed a strange light as he looked at the concave on top of the altar. Shortly after, joy appeared in his eyes and he laughed. "This is the place. Fellow cultivator Seng, I'll be going ahead." With that, he walked into the center of the altar and disappeared. The ugly woman hesitated for a bit. She looked at Wang Lin and then at Murong Yun before pondering in silence. Wang Lin sneered and didn't look toward the altar. Instead, he looked at Murong Yun and flicked a spell toward his forehead. As soon as the spell arrived, Murong Yun suddenly opened his eyes, grabbed the spell, and crushed it. Then he stood up and looked at Wang Lin. Black gas suddenly appeared and covered his face. Then his originally handsome face became fierce. "How did you figure it out?" His voice contained a mysterious power. Wang Lin's eyes were calm as he said, "I can tell you, but you have to answer a few of my questions." Murong Yun's eyes lit up and he said, "Interesting. You answer me first." Wang Lin calmly said, "All cultivators like to keep themselves clean, so they keep spare clothes in their bags of holding. Rarely anyone would appear in such a disheveled state like you." Murong sneered and said, "Just because of that?" Wang Lin's expression was still calm. He stared at Murong Yun and said, "Of course there were other tells, but right now I want to know what you are." Murong Yun snorted. "I'm made of soul pieces. Tell me what else gave me away." Wang Lin said, "Your clothes are far too old and not what the cultivators who just entered would wear. What is your goal?" "I don't have a goal. I just don't want you guys to get the cultivation planet crystal. Also, are those the only 2 points?" Murong Yun frowned. Wang Lin let out a sigh and shook his head. "The last reason is the symbol on your clothes." With that, Wang Lin's right hand suddenly moved. He activated the celestial spiritual energy in his body, and then a spell containing celestial spiritual energy suddenly appeared before him. As his right hand rose, the celestial spell rushed out toward Murong Yun. Murong Yun sneered and didn't move, but at the moment the celestial spell landed, his body collapsed into strands of black gas, and disappeared into the surrounding black clouds. Wang Lin didn't chase and a hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. Soon, a scream came from within the black cloud and the strands of black fog flew back, and condensed back into Murong Yun. His expression was extremely ugly, as he looked around and said to Wang Lin, "You are not a normal soul transformation cultivator." A 30-foot-long flag flew out from the black clouds. The flag was moving like a wave inside the cloud. A large amount of soul fragments were coming in and out of the flag. There were 10 primary souls inside the black cloud with their gazes locked onto Murong Yun. Among these primary souls was a golden-purple Chileen. Its eyes revealed a fierce gaze. Wang Lin had refined the 1 billion soul flag once more on the way here with Sichu Nan. He fused his other 2 flags into it, so now the Chileen and Li Yuanfeng were both primary souls of the 1 billion soul flag. Now this 1 billion soul flag had 28 primary souls. Do you think you can trap me like this? Murong Yun sneered and charged out once more. He turned into black fog again, and flew toward Wang Lin's orifices. Wang Lin's body backed up and his eyes became cold. He raised his hand and whispered, "Seal." At this moment, another flag flew out from the black clouds. As soon as it appeared, a large amount of restrictions flew out of it. At a very quick speed, they closed in and created a cage the size of a person, trapping all of the black fog inside. The cage quickly shrank until it was the size of a fist. This sphere was made of restrictions. The rows of restrictions completely sealed the black fog inside it. Life forms made of soul pieces were very hard to kill, and even if they were killed, the victims would be the owners of the soul pieces and not the life form. If Wang Lin were to use celestial spiritual energy and held nothing back, he could kill this thing. However, more soul pieces would come and reform this life form again. In a certain way, these life forms were undying. However, when the cultivation planet crystal shatters, these soul pieces will also collapse. No one knows whether the next life form they face will contain the soul pieces of their loved ones. At that moment, how would they act? If it was your own soul piece, then that would be easier, because you have a mysterious connection with your soul piece. Of course, there were quite a few heartless people inside the Suzaku tomb. There were a few people who, after observing for a while and learning the secret, began a slaughter. They destroyed one soul piece after another, and then waited for the life form to reform by calling more soul pieces. They continued this stupid method in hopes of finding their own soul piece. Qian Feng was one of them. At this very moment, Qian Feng was at a mountain range in the inner section of the tomb. He was sitting outside a cave with a very gloomy expression. He was the first person to enter the Suzaku tomb, so obviously he met the life forms made of soul pieces. These life form couldn't be killed, so in the end, both cultivators and the Forsaken Immortal clan members met something like Murong Yun and rushed toward that mountain peak. There were some people that were tricked by the altar, but Qian Feng didn't fall for the trap and escaped. He spent a lot of time and effort before finally finding the real altar and entering the inner section of the Suzaku tomb. Although the inner section was smaller than the outer section, it was still very large. There were also a lot more of those life forms here, and some of them were very powerful. Qian Feng couldn't beat them, so he was forced to retreat. During these days in the inner section, he still couldn't find the first Suzaku's grave. As time passed, more and more cultivators and Forsaken Immortal clan members entered the inner section. Qian Feng personally saw a familiar soul transformation cultivator's eyes go dim and die after a few Forsaken Immortal clan members went all out and killed one of those life forms. This scene shocked everyone around. Qian Feng found out that this person's origin soul had shattered and he had completely died. Everyone who had entered the Suzaku tomb was very smart, so they immediately understood the meaning behind this. As a result, in the battle against these life forms, some began to hold back, but the more they held back, the harder it was to win. It was like a dead knot. Qian Feng had been sitting outside this cave for more than half a month. His heart felt very anxious and this irritated him greatly. He didn't know how long he had before the cultivation planet crystal collapses. If he couldn't get his soul piece back, then the only thing left for him was death. Zhu Qzi, you old bag of bones. If you are going to die, just die. Why does everyone else have to die with you? Qian Feng clenched his teeth and punched the ground. He took a deep breath, his eyes lit up, and he looked at the cave before him. He began to silently calculate, and then suddenly took out a black gourd. His right hand formed a seal and then pointed at the gourd. Red butterfly, come out, he said. A ray of golden light came out from the gourd and red butterfly appeared before Qian Feng. She was wearing a red dress, she was still as beautiful as before, and her eyes were still without any life. At this moment, the coldness and arrogance she once had no longer existed. What remained was a heartbreaking sorrow and indifference. This gourd was a treasure from his family that was said to have been left by an ancestor. Not only did it have its secrets, it could also store living things. Qian Feng said, "Time is up, so it should have recovered. You go lure it out." Red Butterfly didn't say a word as she slowly walked into the cave. Qian Feng took a deep breath, his hand formed a seal, and the celestial spiritual energy in his body activated. The celestial spiritual energy slowly gathered on his finger until it formed a small, golden ball. Qian Feng's face was gloomy as he stared into the depths of the cave. Shortly after, a roar came from within the cave and the ground began to tremble. Red Butterfly ran out from within the cave and stood next to Qian Feng. At the same time, a tall figure came out of the cave. This was a 100-foot-tall giant, and its body emitted black smoke. Every step it took caused the ground to shake. As the giant was walking out of the cave, Qian Feng's eyes became cold and he pointed at the giant. The small ball on the tip of his finger shot out toward the giant. An angry roar came from the giant as its body collapsed into countless strands of black smoke to dodge the ball of light. Qian Feng shouted, "Explode." With one word, the ball of light suddenly exploded, creating a powerful explosion that quickly spread in all directions. The entire mountain trembled and a large amount of rocks began to fall off of it. All of the strands of black smoke that escaped were destroyed without any exception. "This is the 69th one already, and I still haven't found my soul piece," Qian Feng frowned. He knew that this method wasn't the best method. However, this Suzaku tomb was simply too big, and he wasn't powerful enough to go to a lot of places. So he could only use this dumb method and hope for a miracle. On the mountain with the altar in the outer section of the Suzaku tomb, Wang Lin held the sphere with the life form sealed inside and jumped down. As for the ugly woman, Wang Lin ignored her. Wang Lin's voice was calm as he said, "I won't kill you, but I can seal you, and this kind of seal is permanent. Once the owners of the soul pieces die one by one as their lifespans run out, you will die a true death." Throughout these past several stays in the Suzaku tomb, he had been thinking of a way to deal with these life forms. After pondering for a long time, he thought of this method. Using a large amount of restrictions to seal each of the soul pieces would create some kind of sealing effect. Then, by adding a soul fragment of the same cultivation level, it would prevent the life form from reforming again. He only needed to wait for the owners of the soul pieces inside the life form to die naturally for this life form to die naturally as well. Wang Lin didn't have time to test if this method really worked, but when those words landed in Murongyun's ears, it was like he was shocked by lightning. "I'm unkillable. When the soul pieces that I'm made of die, I can gather more soul pieces to reform myself." Murongyun's roar came from within the sphere. Wang Lin coldly snorted and landed at the foot of the mountain. He pointed at the ground and created a hole several dozen feet deep. Wang Lin jumped into the hole, placed the sphere inside, and began placing down restrictions nearby. Murongyun noticed what Wang Lin was doing and quickly said, "What are you doing?" "I'm going to seal you here. I'll come back in 100 years to see if my method works or not." As Wang Lin spoke, he continued to place down restrictions. Murongyun pondered for several breaths before shouting, "You! What exactly do you want?" Wang Lin's lit up and he calmly said, "I want my soul piece." Murongyun quickly said, "That is not possible. We were created by the cultivation planet crystal and are made of soul pieces, but we can't pick which soul pieces we get. Also, I'm far too weak to collect the soul piece of a cultivator like you. Only those powerful life forms in the inner section can take the soul pieces of powerful cultivators from the cultivation planet crystal." Wang Lin's eyes became cold. He shook his head, placed down the last restriction, and flew out of the deep hole. At the bottom of the hole there was only the sphere formed by restrictions, all by itself surrounded by flashing restrictions. I know the real method to enter the inner section." Murongyun didn't dare to bet. If he lost, he would really die. Wang Lin looked at the mountain range in the distance and said, "I also know." Then he pointed to the ground and the hole began to close. Just as it was about to completely seal it, Murong Yun's roar came from within. "We have a king in the inner section of the tomb. Only he can extract the soul pieces from the cultivation planet crystal. This is the truth. How do I find it?" Wang Lin pointed at the ground to stop from closing. Murong Yun quickly said, "Once you get inside the inner section, go east. There are 9 mountains that form a giant ravine. Instead of black fog, there is white fog coming out, making it easy to find. The king is at the bottom of the ravine." Wang Lin's eyes lit up, then he raised his right hand, left this place, and the ground began to close once more. Murong Yun's voice was cut off when the ground closed, leaving not even a crack. When Wang Lin reappeared, he was in a valley in the depths of the mountain range. When he passed by this place earlier, he had his divine sense spread out, so he noticed this valley. Inside the valley was an altar. This altar looked exactly the same as the one from before. However, when Wang Lin entered the valley, he suddenly stopped and looked forward. What he saw made his eyes become cold. A woman whose beauty couldn't be replicated sat beside the altar and looked at Wang Lin with her beautiful eyes. This video will end here.